Samad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai, Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivas Adi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Sri Sri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Sam Kund Radha Kund Giridharadhan ki jai, Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Navadvip Dham ki jai, Swami Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Ganga Mai ki jai, Jamuna Mai ki jai, Tulasi Devi ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Swami Bhaktivinoda ki jai. All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled Lord. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, LILA. Thank you so much for being here. Good to see you.
Hare Krishna. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you clearly. Yeah. We were with your guru last night. Gita Nagri. Gita Nagri, the word this where we arrived last night. So sweet. Yeah.
A delay in the internet service on my side or your side.
Maybe from my side.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but you froze for about half a minute before.
Ah, okay. All right. Yeah, I was saying that we were with your Guru Maharaj last night.
Yeah, I know. Unfortunately, I missed it.
Yeah, that's so sweet. Yeah.
Is there a recording of it?
I think they did, yes.
Okay.
I'll look for it and then share it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So if you wouldn't mind, we can put the verse on the screen and you may begin.
Sure. Yeah, let's do that. And greetings to everyone here. Loka Devi, Rajataruni, Linda, Miss Prabhu here. I don't know his name. It's an empty chair now.
Mm-hmm.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, Hare Krishna. You may take from here. And with LILA. Hare Krishna, we might have to wait a little bit. Okay, she's back. You are muted, Madalila.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So for some reason, I keep getting kicked off of Zoom.
Yeah.
So it's happened about 4 times already, and then you're freezing every couple of minutes. Okay, so let's try. If you, I don't see the verse now, but I can.
No, I took it off. I'm going to put it back. Can you see?
Okay.
So I don't see the verse either.
No, I took it off because it appears when I put it up, then it kicks my LILA off.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Okay. Okay, that's
So let's
it.
try it. Let's try it that time to see if you will still
Okay.
understand.
Okay. Hare Krishna, Braja Lila.
Ready.
Nice to see you.
Okay.
Okay. Let's try.
All right.
All right. Thank you all so very much for inviting me. As usual, it's an honor.
But Lila,
Yeah.
I think if you have the verse, you might have to read from your end.
Okay.
Because
No problem. No
time I
problem.
put it up on the screen, we lose it.
Okay. No problem at all. I have it here.
Okay. Please do that.
Okay. So I don't know how much you heard, but I thank you for inviting me here. As usual, it's an honor to be in your association, and so any little service that I can offer is just to for my benefit, for sure. But thank you. Okay, so today we're continuing with Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 14, verse text 9. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhirayet Nashtapraye Sabhadreshu Nitya Bhagavat Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. And so you're frozen again. Okay, so we'll have to do without the verse today.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so thank you, and I seek your blessings, all of you, so that I may say something that glorifies the Lord and enlightens us all. Okay, so Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 14, Text 9. Prabhu, would you like me to try to share it?
Please do. Okay, let me give you the rights to share.
Okay, so we'll try. Okay, so are you okay?
Yeah, we
looks
can see.
Okay. Great,
Yeah.
looks okay.
Good.
Okay, so Yasmana Sampadora Jam Dhara Prana Kulam Praja Asansapatna Vijayo Lokashchayadanugrahat. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. From him only all our kingly opulence, good wives, lives, progeny, control over our subjects, victory over our enemies, and future accommodations in higher planets have become possible. All this is due to his causeless mercy upon us. And purport: material prosperity consists of a good wife, good home, sufficient land, good children, aristocratic family relations, victory over competitors, and by pious work, attainment of accommodations in the higher celestial planets for better facilities of material amenities. These facilities are earned not only by one's hard manual labor or by unfair means, but by the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Prosperity earned by one's personal endeavor also depends on the mercy of the Lord. Personal labor must be there in addition to the Lord's benediction, but without the Lord's benediction, no one is successful simply by personal labor. The modernized man of Kali Yuga
Yet what is the speaker is frozen for a moment. Let's give her some time. I think she will get that.
I got kicked off.
Yeah, you got muted. Okay, you're back.
How much did you hear from the purport?
Well, we heard up to where Srila Prabhupada was saying that like materialists only depend on their endeavor.
On their own personal endeavor. Okay. Let's see. The modernized man of Kali Yuga believes in personal endeavor and denies the benediction of the Supreme Lord. Even a great sannyasi of India delivered speeches in Chicago protesting the benedictions of the Supreme Lord. But as far as Vedic Shastras are concerned, as we find in the pages of SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, the ultimate sanction for all success rests in the hands of the Supreme Lord. Maharaj Yudhisthira admits this truth in his personal success, and it behooves one to follow in the footsteps of a great king and devotee of the Lord to make life a full success. If one could achieve success without the sanction of the Lord, then no medical practitioner would fail to cure a patient. Despite the most advanced treatment of a suffering patient by the most up-to-date medical practitioner, there is death. And even in the most hopeless case without medical treatment, a patient is cured astonishingly. Therefore, the conclusion is that God's sanction is the immediate cause for all happenings, good or bad. Any successful man should feel grateful to the Lord for all he has achieved. Okay. So, okay, 1 second. Okay, so I'll read the verse again. The text. From him only, all our kingly opulence, good wives, lives, progeny, control over our subjects, victory over our enemies, and future accommodations in higher planets have become possible. All this is due to his causeless mercy upon us. And Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvya Vacha Patita Nam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, so thank you again, dear friends. Today's verse is of SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, Canto 1, Chapter 14, Text 9. And so this is King Yudhisthira wondering, in the previous verse, he was asking, he has sent Arjuna to go and learn from Krishna, and he hasn't come back yet. There's I think it said 7 months, is he hasn't come back in 7 months, and so he's getting a
But Lila, you are muted.
Okay, I lost you again. And
Yeah.
just for some reason, I keep getting disconnected. This means something. Okay, I'm not sure. How much did you hear? What did I say? This is so funny.
Well, you were talking about Mara Yudhishthira was wondering what's going on with Arjuna because he had gone for 7 months.
Oh, no,
You're frozen again. Madam Wright, do you have something to say?
I was wondering, I just texted her and asked if there's a storm maybe in her area, you know?
Yeah.
It doesn't look like it, but Florida been getting some storms lately. So I'm just wondering if that might be.
Otherwise, she might have to stop the video and just use the audio. That sometimes works. We lost her outright. We have to wait for her to reconnect. Okay, she connected.
Hare Krishna. Wow, this is such an interesting day. All right, I've switched networks. Let's see if this works.
Okay.
Hi, well, okay, I forgot where I was. Let's see. Okay, so King Yudhisthira has sent his brother Arjuna to go and search for Krishna and to learn from him. And it's been months and he hasn't returned yet. And so he starts to describe why he's starting to get anxious and to worry about what it means that Arjuna has yet to return. But for now, he's just saying, could it be that Krishna is leaving? Like he said, like we were told that he was going to leave. He's going to quit his earthly pastimes. And could that be what is happening? And so he's giving the direct consequence of that as he starts off saying how this cannot be good. And so he says, because Krishna is here, or from him, we get everything that we have. And so he's saying all of our material opulence, our families, our wives and families, of course. Here, Prabhupada describes it as translates it as progeny. But so, sorry, I just gotta keep this here. Okay, but the word pranaha means existence of life, and so of course, from having good lives and having family, then there's the existence of life, which is progeny, and so control over our subjects, victory over our enemies, the conquering of our competitors is victory over our enemies, and future accommodations in higher planets. So to be able to keep performing Vedic ritual, to keep performing sacrifice, to keep developing one's spiritual practice, and then the end result of that is higher planets, to be able to live in higher planets. All this is due to his causeless mercy upon us. So he's acknowledging that everything comes from Krishna. And one thing that I found immediately interesting with this this verse and this purport is that it's giving some very detailed descriptions of what material prosperity means. And so King Yudhisthira, he is a king, and so his material prosperity may be different than the other types of people that are the subjects in his kingdom. Maybe he
Madalila, Hare Krishna. We're getting a notification that your bandwidth is low, so you probably might have to reboot your modem if that's what you're using.
Well, I changed over to a new I'm actually phone
Wi-Fi.
original.
Or maybe the other alternative is probably you turn off the video and just use the audio. That works sometimes.
Let's try that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get that frozen. I was thinking, what does material prosperity mean? So I guess I have a question about this. I have two questions. Okay, I seem to have been kicked off again. Prabhu, do you have any other suggestions as to what we can do?
Well, I think you did the right thing. You stopped the video, so that should work because we can hear you now.
Okay, because I just got kicked off again. Let's see, where was I? Okay, material prosperity.
Yeah.
So because we're all different people and we're all in different situations in life, material prosperity may mean different things to us. And so one thing is that material prosperity really is about what we need and not so much about what we want. We want things that we can believe are opulent, but is really what we need. And so there's no direct correlation that be expressed and it's basically something else. So that brings to where we are now in the world. And I have a question: do you think that material prosperity changes according to time, place, and circumstance? And what does that mean for us? Because clearly we can see, okay, a good wife, so a good family, a good home, sufficient land, good children, aristocratic family relations. In 2022, that may not mean so much. I think that this in particular is talking about a little bit of a deeper concept than just aristocratic family relations. Let's see, any of that is Sanskrit. It's not. It just sometimes our family or the place that we come from can affect our position in the world, our stance in the world, but it affects our conditioning. And so maybe it's possible, I don't want to speculate, and I would take any ideas on this, but aristocratic family relations means that just that we have a good family with good values, that is hardworking, maybe has some spiritual endeavoring. And so maybe that's what's meant by aristocratic family relations. Victory over competitors. This is a kshatriya that's speaking, so he's, you know, he needs to have victory over his enemies. And so what does that mean for us? Pious work, attainment of accommodations in the higher celestial planets for better facilities. So we know that that is not one of our goals, to attain a higher planet for a bhakta of Krishna. It's not something where we or we have to be perfect, but we're trying to be perfect of God. And so sometimes it's possible that we mistake the two. What does success mean in the material world, and what does success mean in our lives in general? And so this thing is for us to ask ourselves, what do I want? What do I really need? What does success look like in my life for me, given my propensity, my station in life, any other considerations that are relevant? What does material prosperity mean for me? Because what happens a lot in this world is that we see what the rest of the world is doing, or what someone that we admire is doing, or our peers, or anyone, and we think that that is the standard for success, and that having a lot of material things means material prosperity. When if we've had an experience, or we know of those who have had an experience where maybe you don't have home, or you don't have a good home that you can raise your children in, or legally, maybe it's not, maybe it's not in good condition for whatever reason. Sometimes that's all we can. And so for a person, that material prosperity means just having a safe, clean home. And so it's important that we understand for ourselves and for our lives what prosperity means, what success means, because it's going to be different for everyone. And there was something that Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj said. I don't remember exact quote, but it was something along the lines that we see our failures or our lives as failures, or whatever we're doing as a failure, because we're coming to the success of other people. And if we do that, we're always going to come up short. There's always someone who has more and do more. All of these things, they come differently. Everyone has different propensities and different karmas. So we can't really compare. And so what does material prosperity mean to me? What does it mean to me in 2022, 2023, in the place that I'm living? And so it's important to, and then we can see that a lot of the things that are considered material prosperity are across the board. So there's a general material prosperity, having a good family, having you know, in this case, sufficient land means that there's enough food. We might necessarily be lucky enough to get our food and our dairy products from our own land. But that's basically what it means. And it means that for all of us, even if we don't have our own farms, if we don't protect our lands and we don't protect farmers, then we don't get food. There's a disconnect. Sometimes no one wants to think about it or invest in farms, at least in the United States. There's farming has been suffering for quite a while. Because of competitive food prices, because of these big corporations taking over and just turning food production into a giant business. And so small farmers, they suffer. But we don't understand, we sometimes forget that this is where the food comes from. It doesn't just come from the supermarket. And we'd be surprised. I saw a study that they did of people in America, and they asked them where certain things came from, or even they don't know. They don't connect the two things, that there's animals that are out there that are giving milk, that there are vegetables out there that are being grown and people actually cultivating those things and harvesting and so forth, and then driving them to the supermarket. And so we're a bit disconnected. And so that's part of it. It's a little bit of what happens when why we misunderstand material prosperity. Because it starts to mean other things. It means new, shiny things. Oh, everyone's frozen again. Okay, okay. Okay, so when this goes on, with this is making the point that everything good that we have is due to Krishna's mercy. It's hard to tell when you can hear me because you're frozen sometimes.
Yes, we can hear you now, Mother.
Okay. This is so interesting. Okay. So let's see, where did I leave off? I'll start the point again. So King Yudhisthira is basically making the point that everything good that we have is due to his mercy. But what about mercy? We are always trying to extend. We feel good with good karma and mercy. And so if something doesn't feel good, then we immediately recognize that or label that as bad karma or not having mercy. But what does it really mean to have the Lord's mercy? Okay, I got kicked off again, Prabhu. So it's really, what's really hard is to know where I left off and what was heard. But I think this point actually requires a repetition. So we have really very little understanding what real karma is and what real mercy is. And so what I said, and I think at least I need to hear it again, is because we're trying to seek sense enjoyment, we equate with what feels good with good karma and mercy. If it doesn't feel good, then it must not be good karma, it must not be mercy. And so it's important for us to recognize that when we're stuck in the duality of, there's that story that Radhanath Maharaj always tells about good karma, bad karma, who knows? All of these things happen, and there's a cause and then there's an effect to that. And if we're to label it good karma, bad karma, we may actually see that it could be something completely different. And we don't actually know happen, and it can the moment like it's the first thing that's ever happened to us. And it turns out that maybe it opens up a new part of life. It opens up our life for Krishna's mercy even more, or we lose something and we see that maybe we get something bigger and better, or something more suitable. So for example, sometimes losing a job, you can lose a job and end up getting a better job. Whatever the case may be, it's different for all of us. But the point is that we don't actually know, because we can't see. Only Krishna is Trikala. He's the only one that can see past, present, and future. And he sees the big picture. And often we're so much in the immediate response, the emotional response of what's happening to us, and because it doesn't feel good, even if it's good for us, we don't see it that way. And so it's really important that we make this distinction that just because it feels good doesn't mean that it's good karma, and just because it doesn't feel good doesn't mean that it's bad karma either. And so what's required here, because of such understanding of what is happening in our lives, what is required is diligence, so that we're not being led by the senses that are the ones that are telling us this feels good, this doesn't feel good. And so strengthening of our intelligence and introspection, like really, why do I want this, or why am I attached to that? It may be an appropriate attachment. It may be a necessity for our lives, for us to live our lives in a peaceful way and then be able to serve better. But we have to ask those questions of ourselves. We have to introspect, and we have to be really honest with ourselves. And is this just the conditioning? Is this just sense gratification? Is this just an anartha? Or do I really, really need this? And so this intelligence, which means that the senses are not the ones leading the show, introspection, to really understand where am I and where am I going, and to be honest about it. And say, yeah, I'm really struggling with this. This is, this is me seeking sense gratification. And or it could be the honesty of Krishna. I really don't know what you want, or what I should be endeavoring for. And then seeking out some sort of support that way, from that place of authenticity and honesty. So another part of the purport, Srila Prabhupada is saying that we should follow the example of King Yudhisthira, the footsteps. So he's admitting that he has personal success, right? So he's grateful. He's being grateful in this moment. He's saying everything that I have is because of Krishna's mercy. It's because he sanctioned it. And so this is an expression of gratitude. And so Srila Prabhupada is saying it behooves one, so it's in our best self-interest, that we follow in the steps of King Yudhisthira. And I was surprised by this next line. And so he's a devotee of the Lord. I was surprised by what Srila Prabhupada is saying, to make life a full success. This is not bhakti is not renunciation. It's not renouncing our lives, not in the sense that we generally talk about renouncing everything and everyone and all attachments and all feelings and all emotions. And it's dedication. It's not renunciation, it's dedication. We don't renounce our lives, we dedicate our lives to Krishna. And in that sense, our lives can be and should be, based on what Srila Prabhupada is saying, a success. And so there is some endeavor that needs to happen. So how much, and that's another question that we should have for ourselves. Am I making as much endeavor as I possibly can to make my life a success, a full success, and a full success in the eyes of those whose footsteps we're actually following, in the eyes of Srila Prabhupada. If we have lots of money and beautiful, expensive things, and that's all that we're focused on, would Srila Prabhupada say, yeah, your life is a success? Or if we are serving to our greatest and highest potential, and whether material things come or don't come, but would he say your life is a success? And so we can look at what would our spiritual master say? What would our Diksha Guru say? What would Lord Chaitanya say? Would people that we respect and that we are following say, yes, your life is a full success? Or am I acquiring the wrong things? Or am I not striving enough? That's another part, because full success means I'm giving all in. I'm giving 100% in to what I've dedicated my life to, what we've all dedicated our lives to, which is Srila Prabhupada's mission, which is service of our Guru, which is Lord Chaitanya's mission. And so this is a question that's individual for each and every one of us, but at least I found it very helpful, because I know that sometimes for me, there's a distraction of so many things that this world is offering us to do or to focus on. And so because there's so many options, so many choices, even if they're in the mode of goodness, even if they're in service, and so there's sometimes distractions, and sometimes there's just laziness. You know, I struggle with that. Like, am I really doing everything that I can be doing? Am I situating myself in a way that is appropriate for me? Or do I know that this is maybe some of what I can do, or I'm just putting in part effort? So it's a question for all of us, and these things change for our lives. And I think that it's helpful if we just take inventory throughout our lives, because our abilities change, our skills change, our free time changes, everything changes. And so that's important. And so then he continues on, if one could achieve success without the sanction of the Lord, and he's talking about he's talking about sanctioning, and the word sanction just means official permission or approval. And the reason I brought up things like distraction and laziness and all of these things is because at the beginning of the purport, Srila Prabhupada says that we can earn things by our own labor or by unfair means. So what that means is that we have a choice of how we're going to do what we're doing in our lives. And so just because something is happening, let's just say I really want a lot of money, and maybe it's for a good cause, and I go and I rob a bank. So this could be sanctioned. I actually could get away with it for maybe some time, or maybe I'll have to, I'll just have that karma that I'm gonna carry through another life. But just because I didn't go to jail right now, or even in this lifetime, it's still sanctioned because it happened. So not a blade of grass moves without Krishna sanctioning it, and him being aware of it. That's how karma works. He's aware of everything. And so, you know, it's like, you know, buy now, pay later. But just because I got away with it doesn't mean that it wasn't sanctioned. It was sanctioned. It will just have a very specific effect later on. And so this is like in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, I am, what does he say about the cheaters? I just read this verse like a day ago and now I've forgotten. I am the...
It says of gamblers, I am the cheat.
Yes, thank you. So this is yet another example of how we can't, sometimes the labeling of good and bad doesn't give us the full picture, right? Because it's all Krishna. If I decide to do something that is against scriptural injunction, if I choose to do something that's against the law, and I'm able to do it, technically it's sanctioned, but it doesn't mean that it won't have a specific effect for my life later on. And so Krishna sanctions everything. So what's important here, because he sanctions everything, we have to be really, really careful, because otherwise I may just say, okay, I was allowed to do this. There's no consequences. You know, it's like, at least for me, it's like I'm a child, you know, I just sometimes, like, if I don't see consequences, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. But that's not the reality. So what does this mean for us? How do we know when to strive, when to keep endeavoring, and when to surrender? Srila Prabhupada is saying that we should make our lives a full success. What does that mean? Because we also don't want to over endeavor. And how do we know when it's when that's it, that's enough, we've reached our limit or our full potential or our abilities? And so the Shastra, I think, gives us a nice way of looking at this, a barometer for this. And that is our attachment or unattachment to the results. Because whatever we endeavor in, Krishna says those results, they don't belong to you. and you can try to keep them, but it's really, you're being a thief because they don't belong to you. None of it belongs to you. And so I think that this is a really practical way of trying to understand the balance between endeavor, striving, and when enough is enough, when we should surrender, and not over endeavor and try to get more than we need and more than is good for us, because a lot of things, if they're not spiritual in nature, they have the potential to entrap us. And because this verse is talking about material prosperity, this is what we're talking about. So we can endeavor and strive for material prosperity, but having the intelligence to know that this can entrap me if I don't, if I try to keep it for myself, if I do it for my own sense gratification. And so being unattached to the results means I'm not going to push more than I need to, because I understand that I can only do so much, and I've given 100% of my effort. And if Krishna wants this to succeed, then he'll let it succeed. If it's not meant to succeed, then it won't. And so this way we don't waste our precious energy in over endeavoring. But we also know to strive appropriately. And so if it's not for us, if we're doing it as devotional service, then that gives us a clearer, more honest understanding. You know, we can say, I need to raise all of this money for my service. And if those results are not for my sense gratification, they're for something higher than myself, then I'll have a better idea of when enough is enough, and not overly doing it. Because if I just go out and say, I just want to make a lot of money for myself, just to live a comfortable life, it will be never ending endeavor. And so this is that same point again. When we're unattached to the results, we can find that balance. And also through conversations with Krishna, help me figure out what it is that I really want. Or I have this material desire. Please purify it, because that's the whole purpose of it. We can't just pretend they're not there and throw them away, or they're just going to keep popping up at all different kinds of times in our lives. And so this conversation with Krishna, this conversation with our spiritual masters, conversations with our other teachers is of the utmost importance. So let's see if I had anything else. Okay, so the last point is, again, just driving home this, that nothing happens without Krishna's will, without Krishna sanctioning it, based on the laws of karma, based on the personal protection of the Lord. But this is, reading this last couple of sentences talking about, you know, we have very advanced healthcare. No matter what someone does, they can still end up leaving their body. And this is also true, that someone could be really, really ill, and they just all of a sudden they can just be healed. And no one understands. The doctors are like, wow, we had no idea. We gave you a week to live. And you know, we see this a lot, specifically, and Srila Prabhupada knew this as an example that was relevant to us, but we see this a lot specifically in healthcare. People spend so much money, so much time trying to end their lives. And I just saw a documentary on the role of the doctors trying to help people understand that you're going to leave your body. And so let's work together in this to make you comfortable, and see if maybe we can get you to extend your time here. But sometimes the time people have, they waste it. The hope they'll have more time later. And so they go excruciatingly painful procedures and long, drawn out remedies that didn't actually give amble. It didn't actually give them that extra time. And I think it was Steve Jobs that he talked about this as his disease progressed. He was extremely wealthy. And he knew as he was sick and nothing could help him, all of that money that he had, it couldn't buy him his health. I think that I don't want to speculate, but I wonder if you're faced with having to leave your body and you have all of this money, I wonder if we wouldn't trade it, all of this money, for a little more time, you know, and that's it's different for everyone, but it's something to consider, that all of this, these material things, are not going to give us more time.
LILA, you are muted again.
Again, I'm not sure where I left. I was talking about Steve Jobs having all of this money, but the inability in his health. And so saying that I heard a story of this man who's been months to live, and he died.
LILA, if you can hear me, mute yourself and then unmute.
Okay, how about now?
Well, I can hear you, but your screen still indicates that you are muted. Okay, you're okay now.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, that happens when the bandwidth goes slow.
Okay.
But we can hear you now.
Yes, you can hear me? Okay.
Yes.
So, okay, so it was the story of this man who was given only a few months to live, and he decided that he wasn't going to fight for his life, as in he wasn't going to go through extensive chemotherapy and surgeries and all of these things. And what he was going to do was, in his hometown was a river, or a small lake, that was completely polluted and contaminated. And people were just throwing garbage in there, and companies were throwing chemicals in there. And he decided that what he was going to do with the rest of his life was clean up this river. And so he started the process by himself to first start taking all the garbage out, and to start taking the tires that people threw in there and all this debris. And then he started trying to clean up the water. And so what ended up happening was he spent all of the time that they told him he was going to live in trying to clean up this river. But as he was doing that, he actually was healing from the disease that he had, and his cancer went away completely. And it gave him the time to complete the process of cleaning up this body of water. But he didn't have to go through the chemotherapy and through the surgeries and all of these things that are sometimes heroic effects. Sometimes they are, sometimes they are. You know, medicine is an incredible thing, and it does save lives. So I'm not denouncing our technology and our healthcare. It's absolutely amazing, and we're grateful for it. But in this particular case, it wasn't in his destiny to leave his body when the doctors told him that he had no chance to live. It's not up to us. It's up to Krishna. It's up to something so much bigger. And so who are we to know what is good karma, what is bad karma? So, you know, he could have said, this is the worst karma that I can think of. I've got cancer and now I'm going to die in 3 months. But that led him on a journey that brought him the healing that he needed, not just in his body, but also his being, because it's written about this person and his journey of how how he experienced this process of purification. It wasn't just purifying the body of water, he was purifying his entire being. And so we just don't know. And that I think there was one more point I wanted to make about that, but I don't quite remember it at the moment. I got distracted with the getting kicked off Zoom so many times. If I think of it, I'll mention it before we finish. But I'd like to open this up for comments or questions, corrections, any feedback.
Thank you so much, Mother Lila. I truly and honestly appreciate your fighting spirit because there was so much hitches here and there in terms of your connection, but you were determined to deliver or render your service, and somehow the great Krishna made it happen. So this is a very good lesson for all of us that we should be very determined in performing our devotional service. Things might not be so easy. We might not have things on a silver platter, but as long as we have the determination to forge on and push on, Lord Krishna will make a way. So at this point, we ask the devotees if anybody has something to say, realizations, comments, questions. You're all welcome. Hare Krishna. Mother Brad, do you have something to share?
Haribol Saha, Haribol. Thank you, Lila. My goodness.
I love your African words.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, Lila, it's as Sahadev said, you know, it's just so nice that you just persevered through all the technological stuff. There's so many beautiful points you made, and I guess in the first part of your sharing with all of us, you were talking about the success in life from the purport and from Prabhupada's purport. And one of the comments you made was asking ourselves, what do I want? What do I need? You know, in order to get Prabhupada's, in order to get Krishna's mercy, we're looking for Krishna's mercy. So I guess my question is, in terms of wants or needs. So oftentimes we see that we aspire for things we want, and because we don't really know what we need. So how do we differentiate between our wants and our needs?
How do we differentiate between our wants and our needs? Well, I think there's two things there. I think that there's even the introspection of why do I want what I want? You know, because we want something to fulfill a need. And so trying to see what is it that if I get this, what is it going to give me? And that may point to the actual need. Because I think most things that we want are often not the thing itself, but the result of being in contact with that thing or that situation. So I can, you know, I think it requires this introspection, because I can say, I really want to get a job. But well, why do I want that? Oh, it's because I want to travel to another country, so I need the money. And so it's the question of that, and just maybe going a little bit deeper. And the other thing that the practice of bringing our desires to Krishna without, you know, unabashedly, like he knows what we want. He knows that I'm covered with all of these material desires. I can't hide it from him. I can't even fake it. Maybe with the devotees, I'm like, yeah, I don't really want that. I'm, you know, I have all these pure desires, but he knows. And so to bring him those material desires and say, I really am struggling with this. I don't know how to get rid of it. I really need your help to purify this. Because I can't get rid of it by myself, and there's no fulfilling it. It's just whatever the desire is, and to turn it over to him. and let him decide. So I don't know any other way of dealing with wants other than because I don't know what's best for me. I really don't. I can want all of these things, but how do I know what's best? How do I know what I really need? And so I think that's the two parts of it. Introspection, just going deeper, deeper, deeper into what is this want about? Why do I want what I want? And then asking Krishna's help for it. Because even if I say, why do I want what I want? I could still be under illusion and it could still be something that's not good for me in the long run. And so, yeah, I think, what do you think about that? Those two pathways for wants and needs. Oh, you're muted.
Thanks. Yeah, when I was thinking of needs, yeah, because oftentimes we see that we get caught in trying to fulfill the wants, right? However, even if we look at it psychologically, we understand that there are basic needs that we all have, all of us, and how we expand on those needs. Everybody needs food, everybody needs shelter. What else? There's 4 basic needs that we have. And this is Maslow theory, right? So we know these needs are there. We can't not have food. We can't not have shelter. We can't not have association of other people. I mean, these are basic needs. But then we expand on that, being in these human bodies, by wanting, things that fulfill those basic needs. And we expand it. We need a shelter, but we want a big shelter. We need food, but we got to create some, environment to eat octopus or eat whatever, snails, or eat whatever it is that we do, however we do it. Caviar, the best of the best, right, Kusha? Kusha knows this in Germany. That's one of their delicacy. So yeah, I mean, I see Varaha's hand is up, and I love when the devotees share. This is my most beautiful part to me of the classes in West Africa, is hearing from the other devotees. But anyway, that's just my take, because needs are universal. Everyone has the same needs. How we expand on it depends individually on what it is that we will want in life. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to turn it over to Varaha.
Thank you so much, Madam Raj. Thank you. So, Shriman Vara Prabhu, please unmute and go ahead.
Hare Krishna, and my humble obeisances to Mother Lila and all the assembled devotees. In fact, despite all the itches, there are so many interesting points in the class. I may not be able to participate as much as I want because I'm doing one of my communal service incineration very soon. So I just want to take a cue from what Mother Rajalila just said about the universal needs and then the wants. How to distinguish. The question, of course, is how to distinguish between needs and wants. There is another way of saying this. We also sometimes talk about what is important and what is urgent. We often run after things that are urgent, thinking that they are our needs. Well, when things are urgent in life, we run after them. We want to get them done. But then there are a lot of things that are important which we do not pay attention to. Just because they don't make noise, they don't ring bell. But these are the things that make us feel sad when we do introspection. These are the things that make us feel like something's missing in our life, even after having achieved so many things materially. In the eyes of people, we seem to be successful, but inside us, we are being eaten up by certain things which we have not been able to pay attention to, or that we have been procrastinating. These are the important things in life, and a lot of them I may not be able to go into the details, but our spiritual life is part of it, because most often to chant japa, read books, or hear lecture may not seem to be something urgent, so we don't run after it, and we run after material pursuits that we can calculate as success. but the important things, we neglect them often. So anyway, this is just a brief contribution I would like to make about needs and wants. That the other ways of saying it is also saying what is urgent and what is important. Things that are urgent may never be so important. But things that are so important may never be so urgent. So we have to know how to distinguish both and how to instill urgency into these things that are important in our lives. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Srimad Bhagavatam. Thank you. Madam Lila, I have a question for you. And my question, I'll start from what Krishna himself says of himself. Krishna says in the Gita, I think 9:29, Samoham Sarvabhutashu, where Krishna is saying that he is equal to everyone. He's not partial. That's what he is saying. And if Krishna is saying that, I have to believe it. Now, the text we read, Yudhishthira is saying that all the wives, all the success, everything they had was by the mercy of Shri Krishna. And in the Prabhupada, Shri Prabhupada said that the success of one's life is based on the action that is performed by the individual plus the mercy of the Lord. An individual endeavor plus the mercy of the Lord. And so Srila Prabhupada went on to say, like modern day materialists want to do away with the mercy aspect of the Lord and just want to depend on their own endeavors. So what makes Krishna become merciful upon someone's endeavor, and thereby the person becomes successful, and another person, even though puts on the same much endeavor as the person who became successful, but does not become successful, which means did not get Krishna's mercy. So the question, the bottom line is, there are two people, Mr. A and Mr. B, they all put in the same 100% endeavor in achieving a particular goal. But Mr. A becomes successful, Mr. B does not become successful. Mr. A gets the mercy, Mr. B does not get the mercy of the Lord. How does this happen if Krishna is impartial? Mother Lila, you are muted.
Okay. So let's. Someone is muted. Can you hear me, Paul?
Yeah, we can hear you. It's breaking up, but we can hear you.
Okay. So
You are muted at the moment.
Okay, how about now?
It's okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Oh, we lost you again. Technology. Sometimes that's what happens.
It's interesting because Lila is a tech person. She does all of my techs. And yeah, she's the one that does all the stuff I do with technology. And last week we had a person speaking,
Yeah.
and this same thing was happening to that person, and she was trying to help him.
Yeah.
So she was sharing with him all the things that you're sharing with her now.
Yeah. Well, she's back.
There she is.
Back.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you. That was a beautiful question. And Yeah, so I wonder, and I don't know, but I was thinking about this before, because um, there is a mix of personal endeavor and then mercy of the Lord. But I wonder if it's appropriate to say that because he sees the big picture, that's what makes it different, whether we will succeed or not, or whether we'll be successful in something. Because remember that he sanctions things, even if they will bind us more in the material world and get us caught up in illusion and ignorance, or if what looks like misfortune will bring us liberation or bhakti in the end. And so I wonder if he decides those things based on whether we have surrendered to him and are endeavoring to grow our Krishna consciousness. And then he makes a decision whether this is going to be good for us or it's going to bind us even deeper. Because if our choice is to continue to engage and indulge with the material world, and we have no desire to turn towards Krishna, then he's going to facilitate that. And so that may look like material success. It may look like everything is going well, but it's actually just binding us a little bit deeper. So if the same person or a different person is doing the same things, but their desire is to be liberated from illusion and ignorance and find Krishna, then maybe the same setback, that same lack of success will actually bring them closer to it. And that, we could say, is his greater mercy. So that may not look like personal or material success or in whatever endeavor, but because he's seeing the big picture, which we can't see. We don't know if some losing of, let's just say we lose, I know someone whose entire life savings were stolen, but we don't know if they've just cleared out some very, very strong karma and now we'll never have to deal with that again. We don't know, and that could be Krishna's mercy from having some kind of catastrophe happen later. We don't know. And so I wonder if that's it. I wonder if he takes a look at the big picture and that's how things are decided, whether we're going to move closer to Krishna because that's our desire, or we're going to be more entangled in material life because that's also our desire. And he doesn't judge it, he just fulfills, right? What do you think, Prabhu? And I also see a hand up.
Well, Mother Lila, thank you for the answer. I mean, yourself plus other senior devotees listening and now may try to help me with this understanding I have. I think our philosophy, which is considered to be the highest philosophy, which is Achintya Bheda Abheda, simultaneously one at the same time different. If we should apply that, then we can say that even though Krishna says that he is impartial, he is also partial, because we see in his pastimes that there have been so many instances where Krishna played favoritism, and favoritism is synonymous to partiality, because there were so many things Arjuna did that Arjuna was to suffer from them. But because of his relationship with Krishna, Krishna intervened and saved his head at the end of the day. Whereas if it had happened to me, Krishna would not have come in to save me. So I think Krishna, in his own wisdom, figures out whom to shower his mercy upon and whom not to shower his mercy upon. And that is his prerogative. He chooses. It's like somebody who has so much money and decides who he wants to dash is married to. Nobody can hold him because why did you give to this person, not that person? So I think that's what Krishna does. But we have Kavi Kanapu Prabhu with the sign up. Prabhu, please unmute and go ahead.
Yes, Prabhu, thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Mataji, thank you very much for your wonderful lecture. So my question is, you talk about how Krishna is the one who permits all our desires, and without the sanction of Krishna, even a blade of grass cannot move. And we've seen many times that sometimes those people who are the richest people in the world, or most of them, they are atheists. They don't want to believe in the existence of God. And one of the examples is Elon Musk. And if the Lord is the one permitting one's desire, how come those people get so much money to control what is going on in the world? And even that the devotee who are going to use this for the Lord, there's some of them, they even need to go to these people sometimes to so-called purify them. So I don't know, why is it like that? Thank you.
Madalila, you may have to unmute. She was saying that she's unable to connect. Okay.
Yeah, I missed that whole thing, and so I think Prabhu,
Okay.
you'll have to answer the question.
Yeah, let me go over his question. Okay, Prabhu, Kami Kanapu, please repeat. You are still there. Repeat.
Yes, Mataji. What I'm saying is that you in your lecture you say that Krishna is the one who permits one's desire, is the one who fulfills all our desire. No blade of grass can move without the sanction of Krishna. So my question is that some of those people who are one of the richest in the world, or the richest in the world, and I gave an example, Elon Musk. These people, they are atheists. They don't believe in the existence of God. And if Krishna is the one permitting no one's desire, and these people, they desire to become very rich, why did Krishna also permit them? Is it Krishna or somebody else giving these people? Because they don't believe in him. Still, he has to fulfill their desire.
Yeah, thank you. So, okay, let's see if I understood that correctly. So if like I said, Krishna fulfills all our desires, there are people whose desires are being fulfilled and they have no concept of Krishna. And someone could have an understanding of Krishna and yet their desires are not fulfilled. But Srila Prabhupada does say that it's got to be a mix of between the endeavor and the mercy of the Lord. So the thing with people whose material desires are all fulfilled, even though they don't have a concept of the Lord and that all of it is being sanctioned by the Lord, that just goes down to karma. They may just have created that situation in previous lives, and so that's their endeavor. And so what if we are endeavoring for Krishna and have that desire, but it's not happening? There's so many factors. There's so many factors that come into that. And how do we know that material opulence isn't actually taking that person deeper into material entanglement? And the person who has this desire for opulence isn't actually going to get something much greater, and that would be Krishna consciousness, or consciousness of awareness of the self, or knowing our true identity, or leaving the cycle of birth and death. And so okay, it doesn't feel good, and it may actually cause us a lot of legitimate suffering when we don't have the things that we need. But does that necessarily mean that it's not Krishna's mercy? And I don't know. I know that this topic of what's Krishna's mercy and what's karma is greater than what I can say, or but I think that just even knowing that we don't know, that we can't see that larger, bigger picture, may give us a little bit of a at least a place from which to start praying from, to try to understand, because we don't really know. You know, everything's upside down here. You know, it's the, you know, like it's described as this banyan tree that's upside down. And so what's good in the spiritual world is perverted here, and so forth and so on. Nothing is as it seems. Nothing in this world is what it seems. It can seem like a really, really good thing, but it's actually the thing that's entangling us most. But I understand this with, particularly with economics. Yeah, it's difficult for us. It's really expensive to live in this world, and sometimes we just want to be comfortable so that we can focus on our Krishna consciousness, or at the very least not suffer, you know, not have whatever comes with that. And so it's a difficult thing that causes a lot of distress for us. And so when we see that people can attain that by doing nothing, what to speak of surrender to Krishna, it just can seem very unfair. But we don't actually know. Nothing happens outside of the laws of karma, or of Krishna's personal intervention. So we know that everything is working based on a system, on a law that is completely and absolutely fair and just. Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking about this.
Thank you so much, Mr. LILA.
Thank you very much, Mataji. Because I was just thinking sometime, because of the different level of devotees, there's some devotees who are going to become Mrishra Bhakti, and the devotee who was going to be an unalloyed devotee. So different platform of devotees. So different things has to be, you know, taught, so that people will not be because many in the past we see many devotees, they after some time they hated the movement because they were thinking that they were, you know, misdirected or some, I don't know. I remember those days, because some of the leaders, they don't have educational qualification. They condemn education, and you see so many people join that time. Many of them don't have educational qualification, and it's affecting so much of our movement in this part of the world. And also, so I don't know how we can encourage more of Yukta Vairagya. I think that we have. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think, yeah, there's a lot of work that needs to be done in our movement as a whole, and I think it starts with us as individuals. So educating ourselves, really understanding the Shastra, opening our minds, opening our hearts, being aware of time, place, and circumstance, and really looking deeply into what Srila Prabhupada really wanted. And in that way, we can be the example for others. I don't know. I mean, yeah, we can, you know, there's so many things that we could do to create change or to bring about change, but that seems like one way is just of us being the example, and living our lives in a way that will make Srila Prabhupada proud, and then other people can see. I think that as leaders, all of us here have that responsibility of leading our lives, even if we're just leaders of our own lives, leading our lives in a way that sets an example for everyone. And it's really important. So thank you, Prabhu, for bringing that up.
Madam Raj, please unmute.
Yeah, thank you so much for that question and that answer, Leela. That was beautiful. You know, last night your spiritual master gave a class here in Gita Nagari, and that was one of the topics that he was talking about, education. And he brought up this really nice point. He said, where in ISKCON do we have a high school for young people, like a high school where young youth, you know, can go and get a rounded education? And of course, the answer is nowhere in ISKCON.
Zero.
We have
Zero.
high school, zero. So I think West Africa can be like one of the leaders in establishing a high school, and especially in Ghana, because you do have, you know, people that can teach. I mean, I know that there was a time when you started some kind of a school. I'm not sure what happened with that. However, that's something that could be contributed in West Africa that would send a huge message to all of our ISKCON leaders. A high school for, you know, youth that teaches not just the primary, but also the secondary, because both are needed. The primary and the secondary means primary means our, of course, spirit, our transcendental education, that's necessary. However, we're living in the world. We're in the world. We're not of the world, but we're in the world. And so the youth, they also need secondary education. And that's, I think, what has happened in ISKCON is that we place so much emphasis on the primary, which is really, really important. It's the most necessary foundation for all jivas, all living entities. At the same time, the tendency is once we do that, then we do this thing called what is that, spiritual like avoidance. We start then minimizing everything else in the world, spiritual bypass, which can be a disease in our institution. All right, that was my little take on that.
Thank you for sharing that. That's such a good point. Yeah, and to that point of this Prabhu who brought this up, yeah, if there are people who are lacking the qualifications, and we can get educated. I think, you know, it's never too late to get an education. It's never too late to start, you know, learning those skills that are necessary for our movement. I mean, they really are necessary. And so I think it could start with us, and we support each other in doing that, because decades ago it was frowned upon to go and get an education. But Srila Prabhupada, it was frowned upon for devotees to do that. But Srila Prabhupada came here specifically to preach to educated people. And so to me, it just follows that, you know, if we can get educated. And so, yeah, that's just a thought on that. Thank you for bringing that up, Rajalila. That's a great point.
Well, thank you so much, Mother Brad and Mother Lila Davis. Actually, Mother Brad, you just put my mind, because as we were listening to Maharaj last night, that's just the thought that came to my mind, that yeah, we can try this in West Africa, because we already have elementary school. And Maharaj's question was, Srila Prabhupada came to the West to train people to become Brahmins, and what is the first work of a Brahmin is to teach, you know. And as I was listening to Maharaj, I was looking at his background, and he had a university campus in his background. Now he used that as his background. So I think like Kamikana Prabhu was saying in his question, that sometimes, depending on the type of leadership we may have, certain things may be discouraged, certain things may be encouraged. But the bigger picture is that ISKCON is a preaching and teaching organization. So we have to figure out what we can do to help educate people. Now, Kamikana approach Prabhu's question, if I may add to it, because His Holiness Bhakti Madhura Maharaj, somebody asked him a similar question some time ago. And the answer he gave, if I have to paraphrase, was that when someone is like so much rich, I mean, in the material sense, economically so rich, it does not necessarily mean that it is Krishna who is blessing that individual. Even though it's Krishna, but at the same time, it's not Krishna. Because Durga is the principal deity of this material world. Durga is in charge of this material world. And Durga is Krishna, at the same time, not Krishna. So Durga can bless people to have riches and wealth. But that does not mean that it's coming from Krishna. Just like in the Bible, God empowered Moses to throw his stick, and the stick turned to snake. The pharaohs were also able to use their stick and also turn their stick into snake. So God can give money, Durga can give money, but if our money is coming from Krishna himself, it's more valuable than what Durga can give us, because usually when Krishna gives, that is going to be in the service of Krishna, whereas when Durga gives, it might not be in the service of Krishna. That's what I can add to the beautiful answers Mother Lila, Mother Bright gave. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you. This reminds me of in the 10th canto. Actually, it's really nicely said in the Krishna book. I think it's the last pastime about Shiva. And one of the questions is that, or it's towards the end, one of the questions could be the one with Bhanusara where Shiva fights him, or towards the end where he's talking about why is it that all the devotees of Lord Shiva are all opulent and they have all these material things, and Lord Shiva is very renounced. He wears, like, you know,
Open.
hide. And then the devotees of Lord Vishnu are always poor and they don't have anything, but Vishnu's always so opulent. It's just a beautiful question. And then, you know, you have to go and read the answer because I don't want to mess it up. But it's one of my favorite stories, and you know, I share it with people like, yeah, that's true. I want to know why. So I would encourage, go check out the end of the Krishna book.
Thank you so much, Lila.
So it's not just us asking the questions, like, why are all these other devotees so opulent and we're like struggling? But you know, we have the greatest value in this entire in all the universes, right? In creation, and we cannot, as we're struggling, and we're all struggling with all of these different things, whether it's a decrease in health, or we're struggling to be stable materially in the world, or whatever it is, to just remember the inconceivable value of what we have, and that this knowledge of Krishna that doesn't come because we want it. It doesn't come because we read a book. It doesn't come because we were born in this movement or we heard kirtan. It comes because Krishna's giving it to us. It's not free, it's not cheap, and it is the most priceless thing that it is in existence. And I think that if we remember that often and remind each other that we have the absolute greatest thing, that we have devotee association, then we'll always feel like we have everything that we need. We always will feel like we're rich beyond measure, because when life and the sufferings of it, the disease, the old age, and every other suffering that's in between, you know, the being born and the leaving the body, because of what we have and because of what we know and what we're cultivating, the devotees are the ones that know how to deal with that. And we're sure we may be suffering, we may be in some discomfort for whatever comes up in life, but we know who we are. And if we forget, there's a devotee who will tell us, and we know where we're going. And so those are the things that help us, give us the strength to go through this life and the sufferings and everything that comes up, and to be able to take shelter of Krishna. So yeah, we shouldn't underestimate the value of what we already have, whether we're struggling or not. I don't want to diminish any of our struggling. There's a story of Mirabai, the Saint Mirabai, and her guru was a devotee of Vishnu, and materially he was a Shudra. He was he would tan hides, and he was very he didn't eat a lot. He had a family, but he didn't live with them. He was separated from them, and he suffered so much in his material life. People, you know, the Shudras, people would just deride him, they would offend him, all of these awful things, and he just suffered. But he was in direct communication with Krishna. He would see him. He like would fall asleep, and Krishna in his form of a child would visit him, and he would talk to him. And so you know, it looks like one thing materially, but really something else is happening, and that's just an example of how it could be. So yeah, thank you all for reminding me of that, the value of what we have.
I think another example may be Sudama.
Yeah, yeah. So true.
I listened to one lecture Hare Krishna Mother Rukmini gave, which is so beautiful. Mother Rukmini, we have her here sometimes. And the title of the lecture was Bhakti is received, it is not achieved. In other words, on our own endeavor and knowledge, strength, and whatever, we're not going to attain bhakti. It's just mercy. Of course, we have to put in it the effort. And then when Krishna, Guru, Radha becomes happy with our sincere effort, then they give it to us. So
Yeah.
bhakti is received, is never achieved. We don't have to shoot ourselves in the head. I've tried this, I can't get it. No, it's not been given to you yet. Hare Krishna, thank you.
Hare Krishna, thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Haribol.
Shri Govinda, you have something to share before we bring the class to a close? Please go ahead on mute.
Hare Krishna devotees.
Hare Krishna.
My respectful obeisances to you all. Thank you very much for Mataji for this wonderful class and all your contributions. Is very, very impressive, and it's enjoyable to hear from all of you, knowledge from different devotees, the experiences. This is amazing. You know what I was thinking, talking of education, I heard Mother was saying that Prabhupada came to, I didn't hear that part very well, or that one part of the world or so, and he came to preach to the educated people. I don't know whether I heard you right, but it is true that this knowledge requires educated people to assimilate this knowledge and distribute it. But in actuality, devotion has nothing to do with material education, because we know that the gopis were village girls. They didn't have any education, but these gopis were the first class devotees of Lord Krishna. And we know the story of a Brahmin who was a Paka devotee, highly educated, and he does his things very nicely, and thinking that he was number one, and so he should be the candidate for entering into the spiritual world. So when Narada was to visit Vaikunta, you know, both the Brahmana and the cobbler gave message to Narada to find out as to when they were coming back home. So the educated Brahmana, proudly thinking that he was more qualified, was disappointed. and a cobbler who was just simple, devotee, looking very wretched somewhere at the corner, was actually ready to go back home, according to Krishna's vision. And so sometimes this material education, and also we know so many devotees who have come into this movement, highly educated materially, they could not stay in this movement. Most of them have gone. What happened to the education? If that is the yardstick, if that is the qualification, then all these people would have stayed. And so I think what I was thinking was that those who have the education materially and have studied these scriptures, one thing I've learned is that the children, they don't learn by instructions, but they learn by examples. The children staying with their parents, they look at what the parents do, and then they try to do the same thing than the parents telling them what to do or try to direct them. So we try to direct others with our education, but practically, what are the examples? So those of us who think we are educated and we know the Shastras, is wonderful. But I think if we can come down and try to see each and every person as a spirit soul, due to some karma, as all of you are saying, somebody has taken birth in a Brahmin family, education is one of the assets of the unsuccessful yogi. And not everybody has that kind of asset. There are 4 kinds of people that surrender to Krishna, and it's only 1% that is looking actually for Krishna. What happened to the trade? Are we leaving them behind because they are not qualified? So what I'm trying to say is that we have to bring everybody on board, and it will work better by our practical examples to these devotees that are working under us, those of us who, who have this knowledge. They are looking at how we are doing. If 2 senior devotees, highly qualified, materially and spiritually educated devotees are fighting, are having malice, they don't talk to each other, they don't go to each other's zone, always harboring grudges. This is what we call education. I think we should go beyond that and try to develop the bhakti which is within us, that shakti, that love, which Krishna is looking for. Krishna is looking to taste the heart of devotees that is full of love. How to develop that love, how to help others to develop that love. I think this should be our most concern. Yes, we can educate people to read and write and all that. It's very good, but I think we should also try as much as we can to help those who we think they are under us to come to the level of understanding the importance of the Krishna's holy name, the importance of offering obeisances to the Lord. Even a dog, Srila Prabhupada said, a dog can hear this mantra and dance. A child can hear this mantra and dance. The power of the holy name to establish this in the heart of every living entity that come across us. We should try to do this more and more. I think, this has been my contemplation as this discussion was going on.
All right.
That we should try to develop this bhakti, because this bhakti is very, 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 very contagious. Just like, this coronavirus. If I have it, and then, I come around you, definitely we're also going to have it. It's very contagious. So bhakti is contagious. Once we try to develop this bhakti shakti, we can affect other people who don't even have it. So we should try to develop this bhakti and share it. This is my little contribution. Hare Krishna.
Mother Lila, thank you. Thank you, Lila. Mother Lila, that was it was a mini class which is a comment and question at the same time. I hope you still can remember everything he said, and you gave him some answer to whatever he was asking.
Yeah,
Important statements he made. Yes.
yeah, thank you, Govinda Prabhu. I appreciate your points, and I agree. Srila Prabhupada said that that even a child can do this, and he says over and over and over that true knowledge is this understanding between the spirit and matter. And so that's what real knowledge is. And I think that this is part of the education that we're talking about. When he came here to speak to educated people, it wasn't because only educated people could understand this knowledge, because like you said, only a child could understand, or those of us who've just been, we're so, I speak for myself, so ignorant and so fallen, I can get some understanding. But it wasn't because they could understand because they were educated. He actually came to the West and ended up with just hippies and drug addicts and things. It was because he knew that whatever the West did, the rest of the world would follow. And so that's a little bit of the difference. It's not that material education gives us a better understanding of Krishna consciousness, but it just has to do with the whole world. And if educated people, the people that are in positions of power, have Krishna consciousness, then the entire world has the potential to change. And I think that's just a bit of a distinction there, because there are no qualifications for bhakti. It's who we are. And so we just have to remember. So I agree, yeah, we should share this knowledge in that way. But I think it was being referred to more from an organizational, institutional perspective, that if we want to be relevant in the world, and be respected as a powerful movement, then it does require that we at least be in the world in that way. And it's happened already. It's already happening. That so many devotees have higher education and they're doing amazing things in the world, and the rest of the world is looking at that. And it's not that they're looking at, oh, you're educated, so let me do what you do. This is how a devotee of Krishna can lead their lives with getting education, the things that are important to the rest of the world. They can have materially prosperous lives. They can have good educations. All of these things are still possible, and yet they have Krishna. They have a different philosophy of life. And so I think that's part of the end goal, that anyone and everyone can get this knowledge. And a lot of people in the world, they don't want to give up their material lives, or they don't want to forsake an education and do something else. And our perspective is that you don't have to. You can just add Krishna. So thank you for sharing that point and reminding us that the most important thing is to share true knowledge, real knowledge.
Thank you so much, Mother Lila. I just want to remind my dear God brother Govinda Prabhu, because this incident happened in Ghana with our very dear brother Titan Oran, and he was in the temple room. At the time, I was the Sankirtan leader. We had gone out on Harinam Sankirtan, and we came back to the temple with a huge Lakshmi, but we distributed only one literature. One magazine. Who are they? And I had to announce in the morning after the Mangarati. And when I announced, it was so, excuse my language, you were so heavy. He says, what? You made all this money and you distributed only one book? Everybody was quiet. Everybody was running away because Gurudev was so happy. And I tried to defend the devotees. I said, we went to areas where the people are very illiterate. they're uneducated. So he says, then the next time, don't go there. Go to where you can dissipate books, you know. So, in fact, I think we're all saying the same thing, that we do not have to discourage those who want to pursue education, neither should we look down on those who do not have good education. But for the purpose of preaching, it is very, very helpful when we preach to educated people. In fact, it is described in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita that when Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda appeared to perform their LILA, there was one devotee, I don't know if anybody here remembers the name, but this devotee was with Krishna in Krishna's pastime, which was 4,500 years ago. But this devotee was hiding in a cave because Krishna went out with him on pasturing and they forgot about him and he kept living in the cave for 4,500 years. And then the Lord Chaitanya, what's the name?
I think it's Sudama.
Sudama. Thank you, Sudama. Yes. And so Lord Chaitanya asked Lord Nityananda to go bring him. And when Nityananda brought him, because those times people were so huge, so Lord Chaitanya said, no, who is going to accept you like this? So he asked him to shrink, to come to the level of the normal human beings at this time. And so he was asking, you are my Lord, Lord Krishna, you used to dress in opulence. Why are you dressed in such tattered, poor manner? And why are you here in Navadvip? Why are you not in Vrindavan? So Lord Chaitanya said, I came this time because I have to dissipate ignorance. And I came to Navadvip because this is where the educated class is. And I have to defeat them. You see, so the time, place, circumstance. So if in today's world, like Sri Prabhupada came, the scientists are ruling over the world. So if we have our devotees who also understand their language and speak to them and convince them. And then Krishna says in Gita 3:21, is it 21? I think 3:21. Now, whatever a great man does. So when people see these learned people take it to Krishna consciousness, then it's going to encourage them. That is just what I wanted to add to that. But probably now you remember that past time we put it in, how he chastised us.
I don't dispute the fact that people with higher education are needed, highly required in this society. No, I agree with that, but also don't forget that when Chaitanya Prabhu met this devotee, uneducated, and was reading Bhagavad Gita upside down, and was shedding tears. When he was approached by Chaitanya Prabhu, and he explained why he was shedding tears, Chaitanya Prabhu said, yes, you have understood Bhagavad Gita.
Yes.
Where there were a lot of educated people, Chaitanya Prabhu didn't tell them that. So what it requires is the heart. It's not what we have stored here. Yes, we have to store this thing here, break it down into our practical lives. That is what is required. So the knowledge means to understand Krishna and to love Krishna. And Chaitanya Prabhu told this Brahmana, this person, this uneducated person, so-called, that you have understood Bhagavad Gita. So no matter what our education, the high level of our education may be, if you don't have that love for Krishna, that education is zero. And yes, we should have the education materially, but we should break it down and to grow it with the devotion. That is what I'm talking about. I don't dispute that fact.
No.
The education is not required.
Nobody's saying
I agree.
No, nobody is saying that. And just like Madam Raj was saying last night, we were fortunate to have the association of Vivekananda Maharaj. And he quoted something so beautiful from the Gita, where Krishna says that one has to worship him based on his nature. So there are some devotees who have the natural inclination. Sorry, I'm going to make it different. Sorry about that. If someone has the inclination to have education and study, all well and good, we don't have to discourage such a person. And if someone does not have the inclination to study, we should also not discourage or disregard such a person. Kavikanapu Prabhu, please unmute.
Yes, Baba, I just want to thank Mother Lila for answer the way she answered the contribution of Govinda Prabhu. That was very, mature and wonderful, because our scripture is all about Achintya Vedavadatam to us. So we should not look towards or bend towards one direction, because everything is there in the scripture about both uneducated, those who got liberation and those who are not educated. Sababuma is one of them, very educated. It's only education have to change according to times and circumstances. Sababuma was one of the, educated person. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu knew that if I'm able to convert this person to be a devotee, all his followers will follow him. We become devotee. So that is the power of getting the head. When you get the head, the body follow. Yeah. So yes, I just want to appreciate. I want to appreciate Mother Lila the way she replied to Govinda Prabhu's comment. That was a mature way. Thank you very much, Hare Krishna.
Very beautiful, thank you. Madam Raj, please.
Yes, I'm so excited. This is such a beautiful discussion. Nice dialogue. Thank you. Thank you. I wanted to just reflect on Govinda and what he's sharing, because it's so important what you're saying, Govinda Prabhu. I am experiencing some sadness because I hear you really, kind of sharing with the devotees how important it is to have character developed in such a way that we can be exemplary in our Krishna consciousness. And I hear, your concerns about devotees that may get some education in terms of, how we understand education in a material sense, secular education without Krishna, even when some devotees might get secular education with Krishna, in the backdrop, they may sometimes, keep Krishna in the backdrop, and they may kind of use secular education, as the means to the end. And I understand that can be very dangerous. It can be dangerous for a devotee. However, having said that, and understanding that our scriptures we can find everything in our scriptures, as Kavi just shared. We can find support for getting educated, and we can find support for just being fully engaged in bhakti, totally engaged in bhakti, just focusing on, the holy name and being devoted to the Lord. So we can find whatever we're looking for. However, I think, not that I think, I know in terms of how over the years of experience and what I've understood about Krishna consciousness, that everything comes from Krishna. And so to separate anything, and I'm hearing, Govinda, you're not trying to do that. You're not separating,
No.
secular intelligence or secular education, because that's also coming from Krishna. As Lila, that's the foundation of her class. Everything comes from Krishna. Even Durga Devi comes from Krishna ultimately. So yeah, at the same time, I resonate with that sadness that you're feeling about devotees who sometimes forget Krishna when they get in the mix of secular environment and learning secular education. There are very, I think Sahadev said this, wonderful examples for us, like this, there's one young devotee that I am just really inspired by him, only because I did some service with him, you know, some work with him at a point when he was going through a juncture of trying to understand his life. And this devotee, he was brought up in Krishna consciousness. You know, he's very pucker, he very sastric, you know, he's living in the holy dham, no, all the devotional sciences, everything. And then there was a period in his life where he was really just really confused, really not knowing what to do. He had such an amazing relationship with his spiritual master, he's traveling with the spiritual master all over the world. And at that point in time, even his spiritual master couldn't help him. And somehow, by Krishna's arrangement, you know, him and I started talking. And so something that he had to do in his life at that juncture for him was to go back to school. And he did. And now that devotee is a professor that is teaching like anything, not only in the school system that he graduated from ultimately with a PhD. Now he's still doing things with his spiritual master, still, you know, all the devotional sciences that he learned, teaching, using that. And at the same time, he's bringing so many students, you know, to understand Krishna consciousness. So if a person can, you know, stay having Krishna as the focus when they get involved secularly, that's ideal. That's what we're looking for. And that's why we need to have our own schools. So we can, because when the children go to school where they don't get Krishna, then they only get secular knowledge, then that becomes dangerous. So we want to have schools where there are secular teachers that are trained in Krishna consciousness, that are devotees, that can help those, you know, those students to understand that Krishna is in everything ultimately, and that whatever secular education we have, it is to be used in Krishna's service, to keep that as the focus, because that's where, in this time, unfortunately, in Kali Yuga, that's an area where we can make a big difference in our society. And as Lila said, you know, it's organizational, it's institutional. It doesn't really, I mean, it's, you know, it's bhakti is the heart, right? Bhakti is the heart. And yes, as everybody's saying, bhakti doesn't require anything. However, we are living in a world, and especially in Kali Yuga now, where secular education is like a value for human beings. So we want to get in every area. Prabhupada said we even need to get into politics, you know, so that we can make a difference somehow. And there are only a few people that can do that. Yes, because what happens, as you said, Govinda, is oftentimes people lose their character as they pursue secular education. And this is a fact. I know this for a fact. Even sannyasis, you know, that get secular education, I hear sometimes some stories and I'm just like, so sad, so sad. Yeah. So thank you for that, Prabhu.
Thank you so
Hare
much.
Krishna.
Thank you very much, Mataji. Thank you very much, Madam Lila. I'm very happy to hear this. Hare Krishna, ma. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Mother Lila, I remember when I used to live in Africa, you would see a huge mango or orange tree. And if beneath the orange or mango tree, you see stones or sticks, then it means that that mango has very sweet mango fruits, or the orange tree has very sweet oranges. And so when you see so many people asking questions, that means that your class is so juicy. So please bear with us. When something is sweet, what can we do? We just have to enjoy it. So Salika Prabhu, please unmute.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare
All
Krishna.
glories to all the devotees.
Our glories, Gurudev.
Thank you very much for the interactive class. Respectful brothers and sisters, Mother Lila, Mother Brother Lila, and Prabhu Govinda for giving a spice to the discussion. And
Haribol.
I also thank Kavi Kanapu Prabhu because he made a very interesting, point by raising actually whoever has grew up in ISKCON. Yes, ma'am. So whoever has grew up in ISKCON movement in West Africa will realize what Kavi Kanapu was talking about, because it was actually a big issue. When we joined 3 decades ago, it was a taboo for any devotee to want to pursue academics. If you try to do that, you consider to have fallen down. And until Gurudev have to become very heavy on this issue, and even particularly encourage some few devotees to go for additional career and to be able to do certain things to help our Christian movement here. And actually, if you want to look at it, our lack of deep integration into our society locally, as a result of this, actually misrepresentation of the philosophy in those early days. And I remember the particular past time, and I'm happy with the Praja Lila is there. There was a time there was a need to do some training for some government officials, and Gurudev had to send Mother Praja Lila and some other devotee from all the way from US to come to Nigeria, because there were no devotees here who could take that kind of a responsibility. So in the end, what is being said is that it is not a problem if someone is not educated or is educated. That is not a qualification for bhakti. But for the Christian mission, for the expansion of Christian consciousness, it is very necessary. And I'll share one particular experience with you. I'm holding so many international positions with several international organizations, United Nations and all of that. But I tell you one experience. In 2015, I was nominated and appointed as a special envoy to the African Union, as a member, as a special envoy to the Economic and Social Council of African Union, the body, the government of Africa altogether. And after my nomination, after my appointment, I was given the letter of appointment for that post. But when my CV was sent, I was not dropped, but I was not given any engagement because my educational qualification could not go near anyone among all of the about 15 or so of us who are special envoys as at that time, who are appointed. So what I'm trying to say in essence is that, yes, material education is not a qualification for bhakti. Bhakti is independent of material education or non-material education, but it's also important to correct the mistake that has been done in the past, where devotees are made to feel that pursuing education is abnormal in the process of devotion and service. And I think that is what Kavi Prabhu was trying to point at, which needs to be corrected. Some of us are using our old age to study now, to go to school, and then try to get some certificate just to be able to meet up with some of the kind of Christian activities we're doing. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Well, we're going to His Grace Chaitanya Prema. Please unmute.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much, dear God, brothers and sisters, both home and abroad. This particular topic is very interesting, and actually everything has been said. So we should just harmonize, understand? Material education, if not properly, aligned, is a distraction. Mother Kunti also quoted that Jamai Swarya Sruta Sribi, that verse in the Bhagavatam. Material education is one of the disqualifications. However, since we are spirit souls in the material body, spirit soul, eternal spirit soul in the material world, it is a need for the body. And also, as a preaching mission, it is actually a need if we really want to reach out to high class of people. So these two things material education and spiritual education, they are not mutually exclusive. It is not a question of either this or that. They are collectively exhaustive. So an equilibrium should be found. That's all. So it is important. Material education is important. Spiritual education is important. Education with the heart is still more important. But when these three come together, then we are in the transcendental world. So everyone is right. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Mother Lila, please, you are the speaker, so please say something.
This is amazing. I feel so fortunate right now, all this nectar. So very, very well said. Everyone's outdoing the other and just how well said they're presenting these points. So I'm so grateful to just be listening. Thank you so much. Wow. Yeah, I think it's true. We've come to a good conclusion. That they're not mutually exclusive and they're both necessary. This is amazing. Yeah, thank you so much. Those are amazing comments. I really wish that they were like transcribed because they're so powerful.
Lila, so I know that you need to call on me. However, I'm just going to say this to Lila. Lila, this means that you're fully accepted by our brothers because they all came in to share with you. So you're family.
Oh, it's my good fortune. I've been blessed. May I be able to serve you all.
I thought you knew before today that you are a family, Madalena.
I was hoping.
No, you don't have to hope anymore. You are.
Okay, thank you.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And thank you so much, Mother Bragg, for always being there and helping, encouraging, and guiding us in our devotional service. Most of us, if not all of us from West Africa, are devotees today because of your participation in serving you and Krishna in our zone. From there on, we all got in touch, and here we are today. So thank you very much. At this point,
Saha, I want to say one thing to Govinda. Govinda, when I went to West Africa, to teach conflict resolution, I could not be a devotee. I couldn't even wear my neck beads. I couldn't go to the temple, right? I couldn't wear my neck beads. I couldn't go to the temple. One time I snuck a devotee from the temple in Lagos to come to my hotel room. That devotee had to wear plain clothes, couldn't wear nothing, because I wanted prasadam so bad. I was like, I have to get prasadam. I don't care, But this is what it meant. It meant that for 3 months, I lived in Nigeria and could not go to a temple, could not connect with a devotee because I was hired by the government.
Yeah. Wow. That's something beautiful to contemplate on, because if our society were to be accepted in society by then, probably that wouldn't be the case. But we were not very much known in society at that time. And that's why we should all contribute positively to the movement so that we can truly enjoy it. So at this point, we're going to humbly request all the devotees to unmute. We truly appreciate you all for your patience, your love, your dedication, that you unmute and you chant to make Hare Krishna to express our appreciation. Our precious speaker, Mother Lila Devi, Jai. Hare
Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Bravo.